Hello, welcome to another episode of ShareNet. My name is Ian Young. Thanks for joining us today. Today I have a story for you, a story of Jhun. Jhun is currently a staff of RCD. He is employed at RCD as a program coordinator. Now he's a father, single father of two boys, twin boys actually, who are now 22 years old. He was disabled back in 2010 when his boys were only 10 years old. According to Jhun, raising kids is tons of fun, but there are also challenges that came along with it, and it's not for everybody. For example, driving them to activities and their games definitely were some of the highlights, but many places were not accessible, so that added to his challenge. In the end, he always finds ways to make things work with the help of friends, family, and even people he doesn't know. The following is a quote from him. Attitude plays a big role in overcoming the challenges of being a parent with disability. The first step is acceptance. Accept there are limitations. All right, so folks joining us live at the studio at RCD, I have Jhun. Hey Jhun, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you for being here. Now, this is part of the ShareNet video for the topic of parenthood, so hopefully we can collect a bunch of stories where parents with disabilities will find helpful. So I have some questions for you. And I'll first start with this question. What was your first thought when you knew you're going to be a parent?
Thank you, Ian. The first thing that came into my mind when I heard that I'm going to be a parent, it was an excitement, unbelievable feeling. I cannot explain it in words. I was excited, and I have a fear as well. So the fear is coming from how do I raise kids, and there's no manual that could guide you on that one, but there are tons of books out there, but you just hope that you will be able to meet the demands of being a parent.
Right, and back then, disability was not part of the play because for the first 10 years of your twin boys, you were able to conduct everything just as, shall we say, a able body, right?
Yeah.
So no disability. Now, my second question is then, what happens or how did you feel when you learn of your disability, in particular, specifically in a way of supporting your twin boys?
Thank you. It was overwhelming. The feeling was just, how do I manage now? I used to be able to do things on my own without seeking anyone's help. Now that would change so much, because this time, because of my disability, the challenge is how to physically overcome those things that I used to do so easily will now take so much longer, and that is the main challenge for me.
And for the most part, you were doing everything on your own.
Pretty much, I'm a very independent person. I raise my kids by myself, and I would need or ask for help if I need to, but it rarely happens because I'm an able body at the time.
Right. So now, at what point? Sorry, this is just I'm just curious. You mentioned that you were from another country back then. Is that correct?
That's true. I'm actually originally from the Philippines, but my kids were actually born in United Arab Emirates, and another city which is I would say the most progressive city in that country is in Dubai, where I raised my kids from 1 year old up to the time we moved to Canada.
Okay. So now, on top of your boys, your young boys, you have to adjust to a new lifestyle in a new country. So that must be pretty overwhelming for you.
And
How did that feel?
well, confusing at most, because the culture there is totally different from what we have here in Canada. Although we have much support here in Canada, not like the place where I used to live. But still, here you have to be, sorry, you have to be independent as much as you can.
Awesome. Now, what kind of adjustments that you have to make in supporting your young boys?
Well, from the transition from doing everything into now asking help from families and friends, it's mostly on the mental side, because you have to be able to overcome the fear and the embarrassment of asking people for help. And to me, it's quite big. Coming from a background that has, I would say, paternalistic view of the world. The father has to be able to do pretty much everything, and now since I have physical limitations, I would have to ask every now and then people, family or friends, sometimes even people that I don't know.
And being a single parent, you also took on the role as a mother as well. That must be quite interesting. How did you do it?
It is difficult, I can say, but I was just fortunate because on my younger years I've been trained to do household stuff. I know how to wash clothes, fold clothes. I even know how to cook. So fortunately for me, I have those training. But imagine if you don't. That is pretty hard.
You must have like 40 hours in your day then, because that is a lot of work. Taking care of two young boys, going to work, doing the typical household chores. That must be quite a handful for you.
Yeah, it is actually a very you have to plan ahead. Like what I'm going to do tomorrow, it's already running in my mind today. Before as soon as I retire to bed, I play scenarios of what I should do tomorrow. It takes lots of planning, but the most important thing is you have to have a strong mental attitude.
Right.
Just be ready if any changes, even tiny ones, would probably affect your whole day.
What was the biggest challenge that you experienced?
Raising my kids, I would say the judgmental look from the people that they wouldn't say it, of course, but you have that feeling that whenever they look at me and they look at my kids, there's a question always behind that. What made you decide to have kids? And do you have the right to have kids? Because how will you be able to raise them to be a good contributing member of the society? So it's the challenge for me is to prove, I don't have to, but to prove to everyone else that I'm just like anyone else. I have the right to have kids, and I'll do my best to raise them in a good way.
Yep, and of course now they are 22 years old and they are all self-sufficient and
Sure.
they're big boys. Good stuff. Now, what do you think is the biggest achievement in raising the two boys?
I think the way I raise them, that's my main accomplishment. Whenever people approach me, some family members or friends, people that I don't know, people they meet in school or at work, my biggest achievement is whenever they approach me and they tell me that I raise my kids well. I've never been called in school other than get good praises from the principal, from the teachers. So to me, that's my reward.
Yes, that sounds very, very impressive indeed, June.
Thank you.
I just hope I can do half as good as you, because my daughter is also growing up, but still quite young. Now, at the end of the day, what sort of things make your day being a parent?
I just to know what they have done the whole day. We get the chance to talk about it when they come home from work. Actually, they're both working and studying at the same time. So we make sure that we talk about how their days have gone, and to talk about things that I made sure that both my kids feel supported all the time. That's pretty much the highlight of my day.
So you're still very close, despite being 22 years
Oh,
old.
yes.
You guys are still very close.
Yeah, even though they're 22 years old, I still make time. I make sure that we sit together, talk about how the day has gone, and if they face any problem. We were still very close. In fact, one of them still lives with me,
Okay.
but the other one, the elder among the twin, have actually moved about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
But we're pretty much in contact all the time.
Fantastic. Well, I think this is all the time we have today. Thank you so very much, June, for joining us today. And thank you all our viewers for tuning in to today's episode. Next week, we'll have another topic with another guest. Stay tuned for that. And with that, this is a good time for us to wrap up. I'll see you all next week. Have a good one.
Thank you.